Chapter 11. Robin stared down at the limp, unconscious Marion, his head spinning with confusion. What was she doing there? All alone in the forest after dark? She could have been killed. She almost had been killed. His mind flashed back to her flailing figure in the rushing water. If he hadn't managed to catch her before she had been swept too far downstream. Did you get him? Little John called, gingerly making his way across the log bridge. Is it one of Prince John's men? Robin looked up at his friend, at first unable to respond. It wasn't like him to be speechless, but this was a special case. Little John leapt off the log and joined him at the riverbank. I tried to chase him off, but his voice trailed off as he caught the vixen's face. Oh. Even in the darkness, Robin could see his eyes widen in shock. Wait a second, that's not... It is, Robin replied, finding his voice at last. It's Marion. He reached down, brushing a drop of water from her face. Was she all right? How badly had she hit her head? Little John cringed. I'm so sorry, he said. I had no idea, the way she dressed, and it was dark. Robin looked up at his friend. I know, he assured him. I would have done the same. We can't be too careful. And she did come out of nowhere. His eyes went back to Marion, just in time to catch a fluttering of her lashes. Was she about to wake up? About to wake? I can't believe it, he whispered. What are you doing here? His heart stirred painfully as he gazed down on her sweet face. It was one thing to pretend he didn't care about her when she was just a name on the friar's tongue. But now, with her lying in his arms, his feigned apathy was proving much more difficult to maintain. So many memories, so many feelings were rushing back to him, as if his mind, too, were a raging river, dragging him to the past. He swallowed hard, his heart aching. Oh, Marion, he said, in another world, another life. Her body shuddered, drawing him back to the present. She was sopping wet, probably freezing. He grabbed his cloak, which he had wisely taken off before diving into the river, and wrapped it around her trembling frame. If only she would wake up. What do you want to do, Robbie? Little John asked. We can't just leave her here. Do you want me to drop her off at the Abbey? Friar Tuck can take care of her until morning, and then escort her back to the castle. Right, Robin said, his insides torn. He knew what John had suggested was the most practical solution, but at the same time, something inside of him didn't want to just let her go again. He hadn't seen her in 3 years, and to have to say goodbye again so soon. Robin? John pressed. Robin looked up. Let's take her back to camp first, he said. It's closer than the Abbey, and she can warm up by the fire before we take her to the edge of the forest. What happened to no outsiders at the camp? Little John asked, raising an eyebrow. Marion's not an outsider, Robin replied. He paused, looking down at her soft face, then added, and I trust her with my life. John nodded, placing a paw on Robin's back to let him know he understood. Robin appreciated the gesture. He knew what he was doing was against his own rules, and his rules were made for a reason. After all, keeping the camp secret was the only way to ensure they all stay out of prison. But this was Marion. This was different. She's unconscious now, and we'll blindfold her on the way back, he declared. This way she'll know we have a camp, but she won't know how to reach it. I think the others will be able to accept that. I'm sure they will, John said with a smile. After all, they know how you feel about Marion. Robin turned away, suddenly uncomfortable. How was that possible? How could they all know how he felt when he himself was so tangled in confusing emotions, wanting both to push her away for her own safety and to selfishly hold her close at the same time? Oh, Marion, he thought, whatever am I going to do?